Welcome to English Corner, Level 1, Lesson 1. Before the class arrives, take a moment to look back in the glossary pages. Here in the glossary pages, you'll see what the focus of each lesson really is. Sometimes it's easy to get lost in the conversations on the pages, the different words or vocabulary that's introduced, but in the glossary pages, you'll see what we really want to focus on. So for Level 1, Lesson 1, you can see there's greetings and how to answer the question, how are you? This is the goal of the lesson. Hi, welcome to English Corner, Level 1, Lesson 1. My name is Timothy. Now, as your students arrive, warmly greet each and every student. This really sets the tone for the class. So make sure that you smile a whole lot, you're really nice, and try to set up a connection with your students so later on in the class they feel comfortable expressing themselves in front of you. After you've welcomed all of your students, go ahead and play the recording for Section A under Talking Corner. And just have the students listen to the recording. Then play that same recording a second time. You want them to hear these words as much as possible. Then you can go around the class and ask every student, what's your name? What's your name? What's your name? And the student should respond with, my name is. By doing this several times with each of the students, they're able to hear the question, what's your name? And they're able to say and hear the response, my name is. Then have the student stand up and form a circle. Explain to one student that they need to ask the student to their left what their name is. The student should respond, then ask the student to their left what their name is. Go around the circle at least twice, so all the students have an opportunity not only to say, my name is, but they also have an opportunity to ask the question as well. Once you've done this, have all the students return to their seats. Then, on the board, draw two pictures. One picture can look like this. It says, good morning. And the second picture can look like this. It says, good afternoon. Now notice the good morning picture, the sun is very low near the horizon. And then you want to act it out for the students. Anytime we have vocabulary words, try to act it out for the students. So you can pretend like you're sleeping. Say, good morning. Good morning. I like to give the students a cue so they know when to speak. So oftentimes I do this. When I do that, the students know it's their turn to say something. The first couple times they may be confused, but little by little, they'll learn that this is the cue for them to speak up. So, good morning. Have the students do it. Be sure to encourage the students to do the action as well. After you do that, explain that both of these words are greetings. The hello or hi. Then you can teach them also, whenever you teach them, good afternoon. Afternoon can be quite a long word for a new English learner. So start at the very back of the word and slowly work your way up by syllable. So you can say noon, noon. Have the students repeat. Then ternoon, ternoon. Have the students repeat. And then finally, afternoon. Have the students repeat. And then say it naturally and quickly. Up to now, you've been saying every single syllable, very well pronounced, but it's not really a natural way of saying the word. So once the students understand all the little parts of the word, pick up the pace. Afternoon. 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 Okay? Go faster and faster, and eventually it gets to the point where it kind of is stuck on their mouth. And they can say it very quickly. After you've introduced the greetings, and everyone is able to ask the question, what is your name? And my name is. Then you're ready to move on to the next section, Section B. Section D is entitled Practice Corner. So we want to get the students involved as much as possible. You'll notice that there's 4 pictures. Now, before you go over these 4 pictures, you can go ahead and draw these 3 pictures on the board. Each of these 3 pictures correlates with one of the vocabulary words that are in the picture. The first one is I'm fine or I'm okay. It's just slightly positive. Second one, I'm good, is more positive. And the last one, well, I'm great. You want to make sure that each of the smiley faces are different than the others. You don't want them to be kind of similar. You want it to be clear which one is which. That way the students are not only hearing the word, but they're also visually seeing the meaning of the word. And then as you go over this, you, the teacher, are going to add to this. So go ahead and read the first one. And I like to do role playing. So if I'm reading for a girl, I try to make my voice sound girly, even though it's kind of embarrassing. And then make it a little bit more manly for the guys. Whenever you do stuff like this, it helps the students feel less nervous about making mistakes or embarrassing themselves. Everyone that's learning a new language, you're going to have to make a ton of mistakes, and it's really, really embarrassing for some people. So the more that you can make, I think the saying goes, make a fool out of yourself, the more comfortable your students will be. So the very first box on that page, say, good morning. How are you? I'm good. Whenever you say the word, I'm good, point to the second picture on the board. And then you can follow it up and reinforce it by saying, I'm good. I'm good. I'm good. Then have the students repeat. Make sure they do the actions as well. So, I'm good. And have the students repeat. Then read the second box. Good afternoon. How are you? I'm fine. I'm fine. I'm fine. Like you're on repeat, just do it over and over again. Let the students hear it. I'm fine. And then have them do it. Make sure they do the action. The action helps supply part of the meaning to the word, right? Because fine is just like, I'm fine. Point to the picture on the board as well. Then read the third box. Hello. How are you? I'm okay. Right? You see it? I'm okay. I'm fine. I'm okay. I'm okay. I'm okay. Repeat, 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 right? And then have the students do it. Make sure they do the action. If you're doing a shoulder shrug, make sure the students are doing a shoulder shrug. If you just say, meh, I'm okay, make sure the students say, meh, I'm okay. Because it's kind of a middle response. It's a neutral response. Okay and fine, kind of neutral. It doesn't carry much meaning. It's just a response to the question. Also, point to the board. And then finally, the last one, hi, how are you? I'm great. Okay, the last one, I'm great. Point to the picture. That person is super happy, right? So you, the teacher, whenever you read it, you need to read with feeling and help convey that emotion. That way the students, whenever they're asked, how are you? They respond with the correct word. So, hi, how are you? I'm great. I'm great. I'm great. I'm great. I'm great. Yes, I'm great. Okay? Then have the students repeat. Give them their cue. So you know, whole time they're doing it, be sure to point to the picture. So they're acting it out, they're hearing it, they're saying it, and they're seeing it on the board. We're involving, 4 different senses in just this one little thing? Oftentimes, we included this page in the book because oftentimes we ask Thai students, how are you? And the common response is, I am fine, thank you, and you, right? But we want to change that. We want to make them speak natural English. So in the past, growing up, I was always told, never say, I'm good. Because grammatically, it was incorrect. However, as time, the English language changes, and this is a very common response in the United States to the question, how are you? A lot of people will say, I'm good. All right? So we're teaching conversational English with this, and we want to make sure that the students have a wide range of words to choose from, which is why we're spending so much time on just one question, how are you, and giving them 4 ways to answer. Okay. Once you've explained this, you've acted out, go ahead and have the student stand up and then point to the different faces on the board and have the student say the word that is associated with it. You can even have the students go up and slap the picture that is associated with the word, and you can just shout words at them. So, I'm good, I'm fine, I'm okay, I'm great, I'm good. And every time they have to go back to their desk. So they're getting a little bit of a workout, they're moving, and that's always great for learning, is they get more oxygen into their brain, and they're not just sitting down going over this lesson. You want to get them up and out of their seats. So play games with them as much as possible, as long as those games support the main purpose of the lesson. Okay? After you finish this, you're ready to move on to the next page. Okay, you've made it to section E, which is acted out. So first, play the recording for the students once or twice. Make sure they're able to listen to it. Listen to the accents of the people that are reading out this conversation in the recording. That way they can follow their accents as much as possible. Then, you as the teacher get to play one role. You can do the starting role, which is Frankie, and have the rest of the class act out Hako. Alright? So, me as a teacher, I would say, hi! And then have the students say, good afternoon. What's your name? By cueing the students for every part, it helps the class to answer together. So you don't have some students that start right away, other students that start a little bit later, and it's kind of a mass confusion, you can't really hear. By cueing the students, they know, okay, speak now. Okay? So that's why I like to use it for this. Even though it kind of breaks the flow of the conversation a little bit, the main purpose of this right now is just to hear and to practice saying the words. We're not really into the flow of the conversation yet. Okay? So go through the conversation like that, being Frankie. After you finish, switch roles. Okay? Have the class now be Frankie and you're Hako. And you can cue the class to get them started. After you've done this, then you can choose one half of the room to be one character and the other half to be the other character. Doing it like this, it kind of helps you to hear the accents of your students. You can walk along in the classroom as they're conversing and double check that all the students are pronouncing words correctly. For instance, if someone is saying something incorrectly, you can practice back and forth with that student. So if they're saying, I don't know, if they're not saying afternoon correctly, what I like to do is go up to the student, say afternoon, 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 afternoon. Get faster and faster with it, so the student has to speak up faster and faster. And they're thinking, I find that helps with the students because they're not thinking about the words so much. They're just worried about copying the exact sounds that you're making. And doing this is a great way to help the students accent anytime you hear someone mispronouncing the word. So up to now, they've listened to the recording. You, the teacher, have acted out the recording in both roles with the students. Now the students have practiced with each other. So already, that's at least 5 or 6 times they've heard this recording. That they've gone over this conversation. Now you can choose 2 students to stand up and act out this conversation. Keep doing that until all the students have had a chance to participate. Teaching like this is really repetitive, but if you're constantly moving the students up and around the room, you're trying to make them laugh, you're acting like a female whenever you're male, or or you're acting like a guy when you're a girl, it livens up the class. Even though it's repetitive, we want to make it interesting for the students, so constantly get them up, moving around. After they've gone over this conversation, then you're ready to move on to section F, which is just going over the different goodbyes. So you have bye, goodbye, see you later, and good night. Okay? You want to explain to the students that good night is different from good morning or good afternoon. Because good morning, good afternoon are greetings. Good night, while it follows the same format, is actually, you only say it when you're departing. Okay? So, after you've gone over these, the students are able to say them, pronounce them correctly. Then you can play a little game, have the students stand up. And every time you say a greeting, they could wave. And every time you say a goodbye, they can spin, like they're turning around because you said goodbye. Okay? And so you can go over these words. I think you have 1, 2, 3, 4. You have 8 words to practice with the students, so 4 and 4. And just keep practicing with them several times through. Let them hear these words, get them ingrained in their mind. And by doing those motions too, later on, they'll be like, is good night, is that a hello or a goodbye? And they'll have this memory of them spinning whenever they said good night, and oh yeah, it's a goodbye, it's not a hello. So it's good to get those movements involved in the classroom. The final section in this lesson is section G, which is ask and answer corner. Now sometimes when you see pages like this, you're kind of like, what do I do with that? How do I teach that? But ask and answer corner, so you want to get the students involved, you want to get them talking. And you want to pretend like these people just came up to your student and they said these words or asked these questions. And you want to know what's a proper response to these greetings or farewells. So the very first one is good morning, which from the lesson that we have here, there's 3 proper responses. They could say good morning back, hi, or hello. Okay? They would not say good afternoon. Then, what's your name? Of course, the students should answer with their name. How are you? Well, they have 4 ways to answer. See you later. They have several ways to answer that. And again, bye, very similar to see you later, they have several ways to answer or to respond. So, being that there are several ways to respond or to answer each of these items, go ahead and go through these several times and encourage a different response from the student every single time. And again, I always like to use the cue, so I would say, good morning, and the students can respond. You can always go back to the book. If the students are just kind of repeating what you say, like if you say good morning, they say good morning, you say see you later, they say see you later, go ahead and turn back a couple pages and help the students see what other responses they could possibly be using. And get them to mix it up as much as possible. Because we don't want them to always stick to the same way of saying something every single time, because that doesn't make for a good fluent English speaker. We want to give them multiple ways of saying something. Okay? At the end of the class, make sure you save enough time for the students to do the workbook. Oftentimes in the student workbook, new information is presented, maybe a couple new vocabulary words, and so the students may need help in pronouncing those vocabulary words, or they may have questions over how to do the assignment. You as a teacher, you do have the teacher's manual, or the teacher's guide for the workbook, so you can always look up answers if you're ever confused and provide additional explanation for the students, being that the instructions in the student workbook are minimal, because the student's vocabulary is so low at the moment. Also in the teaching manual is a teacher game, which try to use the teacher games after they've completed the student workbook. You want to make sure that they get the practice done and out of the way. They then play a game that builds on the lesson. Oftentimes we'll see English schools that play games because they're fun, and maybe they use a little bit of English. But all of our games, we need to make sure that they really build on the current lesson that we're teaching, or help to review something that we've recently gone over. Okay? Thank you so much for your efforts. in the English Corner class.